T-shirt. Trailer park. I'm always.
And this one here,
I made
the top one,
I'm a preview.
that might be real short as Bob Ginsberg's is one lot, because they're talking about multiple lots.
And, yep.
So they might have to rework their presentation.
Yesterday.
Yeah, oh yeah, all that.
Now, I
Should be run.
Mainly for tree preservation.
Sound
and
good.
tree removal around.
And then today I went up there.
around there.
No,
Did a park project.
I know it's
All right.
yeah.
Had a pre-construction meeting. Sent out a fax.
Those guys that do the
All of the green trees,
Oh,
So, because I knew it was gonna be short, hoping it was.
red trees, and I wrote, remove.
where you go?
They're kind
where
of,
they're late doing
There you go.
saved all those brown trees.
Yeah, you know what?
He explained it wrong to the guy in the machine.
Have you ever gone down to the
The mayor.
Have you gone to the red line in there?
This guy put like a 7 or 10 inch cut.
What you gonna do on that? So good.
I've never been.
Remember his son?
You know,
Really,
my
you know,
experience
from the outside, you cut the
planting
company,
was
really good.
for the borough principal,
Looks
we
like
had
Recommend
much better results planting whips than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen similar. How long have you been in Princeton?
So we had 5,
Okay.
Is it?
We used to, what was his name, Bob Kaiser? Was the engineer, right? Bob?
Yeah.
George Alexa was a little
Oh,
engineer.
Princeton Township.
Yeah, not that, I was in the borough.
Okay. Yeah, Bob Kaiser. Town engineer. We did some park stuff there at Malillo and Bauer. We also did the planning board reviews.
Yes.
He's smart.
Yeah.
I give him.
That was a long time ago.
That's why I was there 50 years ago. And 2 years ago, I had celebrated 50 years as
Oh, yeah?
I see the mobile
Yeah,
park.
not a lot of those ones.
Second.
yeah.
The mobile
And
park
there's
one
even
as well.
less with PE, all that.
I never remember me.
Sheriff time. Those one, your opinion, that's all.
Okay.
How much were they?
Yeah.
They could have thrown.
We on?
Yes.
You can see in that.
They're hot.
They went through that. We are.
The building got slightly bigger, so, and they applied for it, so it's easier to just
Yeah.
tweak it.
You wanna do that tonight?
Good afternoon.
I could hit
Oh,
And I did send that. Did you eventually get, you got my?
I got it,
letter?
yeah. I didn't get it.
Or this is,
But I, you know.
Do you want to record it? You don't have to record it.
I'm glad I wasn't the only
no,
one
we're
working.
fine.
he doesn't. Well, I think, well, you know what, a short 5-game series, they got two guys. Sanchez.
I did take off Saturday and Monday, so that's it.
There you go.
Probably have the best team. Both sides. They can't. No, it's not. Yeah. Oh, God, I've been.
That was just here now, so that might be in
You
your
know,
file.
you get in those playoffs, then you know, it's a different.
Your job's coming into you now.
This is what I got before. I got this A week ago? Oh, yeah, I did get it.
Organized over there.
I mean, now you pay slow.
In the center of the screen. Where the heart is. Oh, it's, it's the one.
Did you guys figure it out?
Okay?
Are we open to help people?
Yep, we're good.
For business, for the public, on the,
Good.
Yeah, you have two.
Agree with me.
What's my opinion?
all right, the Hainsport Township Joint Land Use Board meeting for September 4, 2024 is called to order. It is 6:30, or a minute or two after 6:30. We'll start with the flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, my name is Tom McKay. I'm the vice chair. I'm presiding tonight because our chair, Harold Crowpfeiffer, is unable to attend because of physical illness. So we need to have a reading of the Sunshine Law.
Notice of this meeting was published in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
All right. We have a standard announcement. We start no new business after 10:30. That means if we're already working on your case before 10:30, we'll of course continue it. We're not going to start a new presentation after 10:30. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Tordy?
Here.
Mr. Arrett Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Kelly?
Here.
Mayor Gilmore?
Here.
Mr. Takochi?
Here.
Mrs. Baggio? Absent. Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Costco?
Here.
Mr. Novarita?
Here.
Mr. Holden? Absent. Mr. Crowpfeiffer? Absent. Mr. McKay?
Here. Before we get to number 6 on the agenda, the items for business, we have one matter that we need to insert, even though it's not on the agenda, and I'll ask Mayor Gilmore to address that issue at this time.
Thank you. Chairman McKay and the rest of the board, I received a letter of resignation from H. Crowpfeiffer. So it's with deep regrets that I have accepted his resignation. He has been a rock for this town for 17 years, and he'll be a hard act to follow. So also upon doing this, it is my duty to fill the Class 4 position, and I am hereby appointing Richard Gus Bradley to that position.
Thank you. Very good. Mr. Bradley.
Be sworn in? Does he need to be sworn in?
I swear him in, Bob, as a full member.
I didn't hear that.
I am appointing Richard Gus Bradley to Class 4. He's been an alternate one.
Okay. All right,
Does he need to be sworn in? That's what I was asking.
all right. He's already sworn in.
And that's sufficient.
Yeah, he was sworn in as an alternate, but now full.
Okay. All right, stand and raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially execute the duties of office as a member of the Joint Land Use Board of the Township of Hainsport, that will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of New Jersey to the best of your abilities, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. Mayor, good?
Thank you, Mr. McKay.
All right, items for business. Let me just skip down to C, Hainsport Mobile Home Park LLC. That will not be handled tonight, so if anybody's here for that, be advised that it will not be handled. Legal counsel for the applicant has asked that the matter be carried to the October 2nd, 2024 meeting, and he will renotice. So his letter of September 4, 2024 will be of record requesting that. So I have a motion to adjourn this matter to the October 2nd, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. And again, I'll repeat for everybody that this will be re-noticed by the applicant for that particular meeting in October. All right, the next matter is the Picara case, which we dealt with before, and we took an adjournment of that, and we're back today.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Thank you, board members. My name is Robert Fleener. I'm the applicant's attorney. As the board will recall, we were here in July and presented the application. The matter was continued for us to address a few issues and make some further submissions. I did submit an addendum and sufficient copies. I assume you each got a copy of it with pictures of the residence that's currently on the premises. It shows the front and the rear of the residence as well as now completed rehab. There are also some representative examples of the work that my client has done on other projects. That was one of the questions that was asked. There was a question concerning what finishing work or what else needs to be done on that property. There is some finishing work, and my client plans to put an asphalt driveway be laid, and there'll be some landscaping that he would like to complete, assuming we get approval here, to complete as one project for the entire, for both properties. There was also a question concerning whether or not my client had obtained the New Jersey registered new home builder's license. That's still pending. Finally, there was an issue concerning the merger of the lots. I'd like to put a pin on that if you don't mind. Mr. Agresta is going to continue, has a few things to be made regarding the property itself, and then we'll come back to that issue that I think we can resolve pretty quickly.
Mr. Gleaner, this may be included in your short litany, but if it isn't, I want to raise it. We also talked about a survey of the properties in the immediate area, didn't we?
Well, Mr. Agresta is going to address what other properties are nearby.
Okay, so he's going to incorporate that.
That's part of his.
I just didn't want that to be forgotten.
No,
Okay.
it's not. It's part of his presentation. So with that, Mr. Agresta, can you, and I know Mr. Kingsbury was going to swear you in again, and we'll go from there.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm testimony you give tonight will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So last time we discussed the criteria pertaining to the variances we're requesting. We addressed the positive criteria, addressed the special reasons, gave several examples to that, and then we touched upon the negative, both prongs of the negative criteria. So I'm not going to reiterate anything that I discussed last session, back in July. Just give a few more proofs to further enhance the criteria for granting the variances. So, Vice Chair, as you had discussed, you had requested a survey of the area. We did take a look at the surrounding area. We found 5 properties that are either very similar with the same lot width or less lot width than we're proposing. So the addresses, 3 of them are located right along 4 of them are located right along Main Street. That's 1203 Main Avenue, 1015, 1111 Main, and then 1212 Haynes Avenue is along Main, but bears a Haynes Avenue address.
Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt, but trying to follow it in just a narrative format, do you have a copy of that map, or do you have handouts or something for?
I absolutely do, Scott. I'd be happy to hand those out. So this here is the property information list found on the njparcels.com. It outlines everything. All your property information is up top, and then on the bottom, there's a small snippet of the tax maps. And the properties that we're discussing are boxed out in red. And then just a quick list of the attributes of concern are outlined in red as well. So I'd be happy to hand those out.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I think we can all still hear you. Did you say there's 5 similar, so 3 are the same width and 2 or less? Or did I have that backwards?
I would have to look exactly at my notes. They are either the same width or less. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
Okay, your chart will tell us, though.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Russo, watch out for the wire for the mic.
Thank you. I would have fell right over that and face planted. There you go. Thank you.
Mr. Gleaner, we're going to mark this as an exhibit.
Yes.
I'm not sure, we can start a new number sequence with tonight's date, or we can continue.
Yeah, let's start with tonight's date.
Okay. Exhibit A for tonight?
Yes.
So there, as I had discussed, it outlines the 5 properties that we identified. All the lot widths are identified, as well as the lot areas. The one lot that kind of sticks out in my head, it's as low as 4,300 square feet, 4,335. Now granted, this was constructed in the 1950s, I believe, but some of them were constructed as recently as 2000. The one lot, 214 Haynes Avenue, is actually identical to ours. And then some of the other lots, I did not do a full assessment, but there did appear to be some setback issues, some different variances that may have come along with those lots as well. I didn't want to be, completely belabor the point, just looking to provide some extra proof, some examples of what we're proposing to do, and how it blends into the existing neighborhood. Did anybody have any questions on those forms after taking a quick look that I could possibly address or shed some light on?
Are all these in the R2 zone?
I would have to refer back to the zoning map, but I would believe that they are.
The only reason I'm asking is that in that part of Main Avenue, we have a special restricted piece of probably 2 or 3 streets. And I
Okay.
just want to make sure that what you're comparing this to is in the R2 zone.
Let me see if I have a copy of the zoning map here. Actually, it would be outlined on all those forms.
R2 zone, we go.
Unfortunately, I gave out all my copies, so if you don't mind, I take a quick look here.
I'm going to go run down and grab my.
So that's residential 2.
I think they're all on R2.
Yeah, they're all on the other side.
Here. Okay, I'm going to go check real quick.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I do not have my copy of the zoning map on.
You don't have a large version of this that you can,
I apologize, I do not.
all right, for the board's benefit, looking at these, it's one sheet per example, correct?
That is correct,
We have
yes.
five examples, so we should have 5 sheets. And if we just take the first sheet, where is the applicant's property on that?
So we are located along Stokes Avenue. If you flip over to sheet number 2,
Right.
lots, we are basically the 2 corner lots. So we are lots 9, 10, and 11 on the right-hand side of Stokes. And then one of our examples is lot number 19 directly across
Okay.
the street. If we stay on that same sheet and you go all the way to the right-hand side, there's a small triangle in the corner, lot 5.01, that's the 3rd example. So that's just 1 block over. And then the other 2 examples are located along Haynes Avenue, which I believe is about 4 blocks down.
All right. All right, is everybody following? If you're not following, raise your hand and we'll ask that we get more detail.
So Sam, if we just start on the first one,
Sure.
so I think it might be helpful to sort of walk through and maybe remind the board what is required, what you're proposing, and then talk about that.
Sure. So the requirements for the zone, the R2 zone, are for frontage is 100 feet, and then for lot area is 15,000 square feet. So if we look at our first example on sheet 1, 214 Haynes Avenue, the frontages and the lot areas are nearly or not nearly, they're identical to our proposed two lots that we're proposing. 75 foot of frontage, 9,375 square feet of lot area.
And when was that lot created or built upon?
That lot was created in 1950.
So that predates
That is
municipal
correct.
zone?
4 out of the 5 here were created in the 50s.
Is that lot is developed presently
That is correct, yes.
with a house? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, you know, it wouldn't hurt to go through these one by one.
Sure, absolutely. If we flip over to page 2, 1015 Main Avenue. That is an extremely small lot, bottom right-hand corner outlined in red, faces along Main Avenue. The frontage of the lot, albeit triangular, the frontage along Main Avenue is 75 feet, and the total lot area is 4,335 feet. Very, very small lot. That also was created in the 1950s, 1952.
Is it developed?
Yes, it is. Yes, all of our examples are developed. I did not pull anything that was not developed.
Okay. All right, and then, as you said on that.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair, one of the other gentlemen was asking.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted, these were built in the 50s?
Correct, correct.
Examples of a pre-existing non-conforming?
That is correct, yes. Correct.
All right, and sticking with the second sheet, just to repeat, if we look on Stokes at lots 9, 10, and 11, those are the applicants'
That is correct,
property.
yes, sir.
That's the applicant's property.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you're essentially slicing lot 10 in half and creating two lots?
Correct.
The existing house that's being renovated
Yes.
straddles which two?
That straddles lots 9 and lots 10.
Okay. And you're proposing, of course, to create a new lot with half of lot 10 and lot 11.
That is correct.
That would be identical. They would then be twin lots.
Correct.
All right, let's go to the third sheet so we
Okay.
understand that.
Third sheet is our neighbor across the street, lot number 19. That's right directly across. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that is not. That is one block over. That is one block over from Stokes Avenue along Main Street, also developed, 50 feet wide, 7,500 square feet lot area. So-
And your chart says it has a dwelling on it.
Correct.
Okay. And what's the age?
The year dated on this form here is 1960, so a little bit later than our 50s, but still obviously predates the most recent ordinances.
Right, okay. Sheet 4,
Sheet 4 is our neighbor across the street. We are on the opposite side. We're lots 9, 10, and 11. They're lot 19. Same deal. This lot is constructed, 50 feet wide, and I have 6,250 square feet of lot.
and it has a dwelling on it.
That is correct, yes. Constructed in the years telling me 1950. So again, same deal predating the most recent ordinances.
Okay, and the last lot,
And the last and final lot is a little more recent, year constructed 2000. And this is the one that is, what do we have for frontage here? 56.5 feet of frontage and a lot area of 5,163 square feet. So again, it's telling us it was constructed in 2000, much, much smaller than what we're proposing.
right.
Mr. Chairman, just to let you know that all these properties are in the R2 zone.
They are all in R2.
I just want to make sure because of the SRC zone that is very close to one of these properties, I just want to reassure on record that that was the case.
Right, so all 5 properties in Exhibit A are in R2.
Yes.
Ms. Newcomb, can you explain that restriction that special restriction for R2 in this case?
This was long before our time. This was something that was that changed due to a court case, and that became restricted commercial. We've had a few houses built there, but they had to get use variances on them.
Thank you.
All right, so continue, please.
Okay, and we feel that these 5 lots support even further the positive criteria and the negative criteria of, blending in seamlessly with the neighborhood. So just to kind of close out here, I just want to present a couple pieces. Our last exhibit was Exhibit A for the evening.
Yes.
I'm going to call this Exhibit B, just a quick display of the before, we'll call it pre-construction and post-construction. This is the existing structure that straddles lots 9 and 10. This is what it looked like beforehand, and this is what it looks like after construction. So these are in your packets. The only reason I'm showing this is because I wanted to do a comparison to what the applicant is proposing to construct. And I'm just going to hold this up here. We'll call this C, proposed house. And as you can see, in my opinion, it's architecturally consistent with the upgraded structure. So that'll give a nice look, in my opinion, to the neighborhood, to the neighbor street. A nice new house on the corner like this is a nice display piece along kind of the main thoroughfare through the area. So again, I feel that further supports the positive criteria of I think it's item G, item I, I'm sorry, desirable visual environment. It gives a nice consistent look, at least for the first 2 houses, and as well as along the main street through the area.
So the applicant, you have 2 examples on Exhibit C.
This, Vice Chair, this is actually one example, just different views. One is kind of a front view and then a side view, just to give a little bit more detail.
Oh, so it is the same house?
It is correct, yes.
And that's the house that's proposed to be constructed?
That is something similar to that will be constructed, is my understanding.
Similar, I don't know what that means. Similar means different.
Well, similar.
Similar could mean different. Is it going to be that house? Or are we looking at something entirely different?
This is the house you're proposing? Yeah, okay, then this is the house they're proposing. I didn't want to speak for the applicant, but yes, this is the house they're proposing to construct.
Okay. All right, so we cleared that up. And the other house is essentially finished, you say, except for some details?
That is correct. Mr. Gleaner stated they're installing a driveway, and I believe there's landscaping to be completed as well?
Right, he completed a, what do you call it, zoning permit for that driveway.
Understood.
Calculating out his impervious coverage.
Sure.
If this were to go through, I want to make sure that there's no coverage.
Understood.
So I did watch the recording from the meeting July 11th, I believe it was, because I was not here.
Okay.
And I did go through all the materials, but I missed possibly, is this house going to be facing Stokes or me?
This house will be facing Stokes.
Okay, same.
We actually submitted, this was, I believe, Exhibit A1 from the
Okay.
last meeting.
I see.
This is our rendering, this is our existing dwelling, and this is the proposed dwelling. That's where the driveway would front along Stokes Avenue.
Thank you.
Yep. Unless anybody has any questions, that's all I had for this evening.
Mr. Gleaner?
Thanks, Rob.
I just, Mr. Chairman, if I can, just one for Mr. Agresta or a couple.
Absolutely.
Sam, in terms of the analysis, where you have 5 lots that are non-compliant.
Yeah.
That have homes on them. Out of that, I'll sort of say that little neighborhood bound by, Pulaski, Hainesport, Lumberton, and then the commercial site to the east. How many homes are there in that area?
Oh, geez, I'd have to look at a tax map, Scott. The small area I looked at was probably about 8 blocks. If I can guess, does maybe 20 to 30 houses per block sound reasonable? Maybe 10 to 15 on each side, depending on how they were developed.
So 200?
You multiply that by the 7 or 8 blocks, you're around 200 homes. Yeah, that makes
Maybe
sense.
100.
There's a couple on the opposite side of Maine as well, in Haines, so around 200 makes sense.
To put it another way, are most of the lots developed?
I would say
In
that-
other words, there are few, if any, vacant lots.
I would agree with that, yes. There's not a ton of vacancy around there. Off the top of my head, I did not take an inventory of the vacant lots.
And the point I was getting to, Mr. Chairman, was that Mr. Agresta identified that this type of an undersized lot is, there are several of these in the neighborhood. And if that was 5 out of 15 or 5 out of 20, that is considerable. or it's considerably different than 5 out of 150. So I think the board should at least evaluate that as part of their variance deliberation of whether or not having 2 additional, whether or not those undersized lots are really sort of part of the pattern of that neighborhood, and whether this will exacerbate that condition.
Okay,
I think that was all I had.
all right.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, so the only other issue was this issue that was brought up, whether it was 3 lots going to 2 or 1 lot going to 2. And Mr. Kingsbury and I, gave some case law. I would suggest to the board that it really makes no difference whether it's one way or the other, because the board has the main issue here is whether we've met the positive and negative criteria for the property looked at as a whole. So whether or not I would consider it to be 3 lots, or the board or Mr. Kingsbury consider it 1, it really makes no difference. It's our burden to establish whether we've met the negative and positive criteria in order to get the variance, in order to get the variances necessary for a subdivision, and either we did it or we didn't, and whether it's considered to be 1 whole lot or 3 separate lots really makes no difference. I don't know whether Mr. Kingsbury agrees with me on that. I think it's more of an academic discussion than anything else. I guess it was important for us to, research it and find out, what the situation is, but I don't think this board really needs to decide that one way or the other. Either you do need to decide whether we've met the positive and negative criteria for our application, and whether or not the subdivision should be granted with the variances. But again, whether it's 3 or 1, I don't know that it makes any difference. I don't know if you disagree with that.
I'll defer to Bob in a second on the legal analysis. I only raised it last time because the testimony during the hearing was, we have 3 lots now, and we're reducing that down to 2.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I raised the merger, and you actually agreed with me in July and said, yeah, these lots are merged. And then I think after the hearing, I had it in my notes.
I'm not sure if I did or I didn't. I'm not going to deny that I did, but again, I don't know that it.
So
We
regardless
looked at
of,
it as 3.
depending where Bob goes on that, I just want that testimony should probably be stricken from the prior record and evaluated now, based on the negative. But we have testimony saying, we have 3 lots now, and we're going down to 2.
Well,
That's a little,
I guess it's technically true that there are 3 lots on the tax map. Now, whether or not that's recognized as having been merged into 1 lot is another issue, but again, I don't think it matters. I think that we have to establish the negative and positive criteria in order to get the subdivision. So I don't know that it matters one way or the other. Maybe you disagree with me, Mr. Kingsbury, but I don't know that it
I
matters.
agree that it doesn't make a difference in terms of what they're being asked to do.
Sure.
It would make a difference if he was trying to sell off one of the lots
Right.
to someone else. Then we'd have a merger issue. But for what he's asking, I don't think it makes a difference whether it's 1 lot or 3.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being an interesting academic discussion between the lawyers, but I don't know.
We spent a lot of
that it
time
really matters.
debating that.
I'm sorry?
We spent a lot of time debating that, which we probably didn't need.
Well, I enjoyed it. I don't know whether you did. But again, I don't think it matters that much.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I'm not seeing it on there. Have you met all the bulk requirements, setbacks, and everything? Since this is the applicant needs to know when they come to me for other things, is that this is a corner property, so it has 2 front yards. Okay, so fencing is affected, the whole 9 yards. Have met all the setbacks?
So on the new lot, there is no new variances generated. On the existing lot, the only variance that we're seeking is a pre-existing non-conforming, and it's the rear setback. I'd have to look at the dimensions. I want to say it's like 10 feet, maybe? 937,
14.88.
1488, that is correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
15 is required.
So you're a few inches short.
It's
Put that
20
one up on the board so that it's
20
static.
feet is
We can see it.
required, and that will not change regardless. So right here, it's 1488, and 20 is required. 20 feet is required. Yeah, we have 30 feet for both of the yards here where the house is placed, the new proposed house, so we are well within the required setbacks.
Okay. The only reason is I didn't see anything on there, so I just want to make sure.
Yep, no problem. Sure.
Is there going to be an issue with lot coverage when the driveway is put in for the old house?
So what they can do is they'll have to take a look at that when they pave the driveway and make sure it will be very, very close. They may have to do a little bit more narrow of a driveway or taper it somewhat, but they'll be sure that they conform with the requirements.
Right, it's 27% for everything.
Correct. Yeah, I believe it's stone there now, so anything can be modified when they pave it.
Right, okay. All right, any other professional questions?
There's no garage now, correct? Garage
No,
is gone.
sir.
On the new house?
Marty,
Correct.
you don't have anything on
No
this?
car?
Zero garage.
Wow.
Oh, on the new house, I'm sorry, I apologize. No, on the existing, I'm sorry. On the new house, yes, there is.
It's going to be one car, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so the driveway shouldn't be that
Well,
wide.
there was, but it looks like on the new image that, if you look at the improvements on the front facade.
On the existing.
No, on the proposed, on the right-hand side? No.
Oh,
Of the other unit on the left, are you talking about the rest on the
I'm talking
existing
about the new
home?
house.
Okay.
New house.
So one-car garage on that?
Yes.
Correct.
The one-car garage on the existing house has been eliminated, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right. And was that shown on the original plans? So you'll just need to update those plans. All right.
Off my head, I'm not sure.
The garage, that garage, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just because I gotta ask, it's a 15-foot setback for that house, but yet you made it 14.88. Is there a reason for that?
This house was constructed, I'm going to assume, in the 50s.
Yeah.
And it's actually a 20-foot setback.
Oh, it is.
And it's 14.88. So no new variance was
Okay.
created by the proposed subdivision. There's quite a few in the area. One of the properties I listed, it's well over the front yard setback. I mean, it looks like it's about 1.5 feet away from the road. Looking off of aerials, they're usually pretty close,
I
so.
just had to know.
I'm assuming rules weren't as strict, inspection wasn't as good back in the 50s. I'm not sure, how tight things were back then.
Very possible.
Perhaps they didn't have tape measures.
I'm pretty
my
sure
dad's
that in the R2 zone, the backyard setback is 15, because in the R1 zone, it's 20 at the rear.
I have on my zoning chart 20. I'll be happy to double check
Okay,
it.
well, nonetheless, you still need a variance.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions by the
Kathy.
board?
It is 20.
Really?
I have it here.
Okay. Wow, I'm getting old.
Before I open it to the public, any
It's 10 on the
questions
side, though, right?
Yep.
Yes, 10 on the side, yep.
from the board? Other questions? I'll open it to the public, and then we'll go back to the board for follow-ups if needed. All right, no questions from the board? Nobody? Okay. All right, public comment on this. If you have a comment, would you come forward? Come on forward, and come to the mic and give us your name, and you'll be sworn.
Sir, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give to be the
Yes.
truth, full truth, nothing but truth, so help you God?
Yep.
Your name, please?
Ron Smith.
Say it again.
Ron Smith.
Okay.
And what is your address, Mr. Smith?
My address, I live at 211 Ingleside Avenue in Hainesport. I own the property at 1103 Main Avenue in Hainesport.
Is that in the area where we're talking about?
Yes, sir. That,
And I don't know whether you had a chance to look at that Exhibit
no, I
A.
did not. To me, the chart is going back 50 years ago. I mean, this is what it was. Now it's, everything is different. Everything's been rezoned, reapproved.
Right, you're on Ingleside?
Yes, I'm
What's-
street
and,
over. But I own the property right next to this property.
Or you back into it? You front on Ingleside, but back into this property?
No, 1103 Main Avenue is the property that I own, which butts right to this property.
Okay.
Is that lots
18.
16, or I'm sorry, 1601, 1617, 1701, or 18?
I don't know what the lot numbers are.
Why don't you, do we have a copy of Exhibit A that we can show to the witness? And he
But
can-
it's a corner lot on, with frontage on Main and on Angleside?
Yes.
Lot 18?
Yeah, I think it's 18
On page 2?
plus maybe some more.
Yeah, be 18.
Okay. Well, apparently I'm at lot 16, 17, and 18.
Okay, 17.1 as well, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, so that is one lot. Although it shows, I know it shows it's 4 on this.
Yeah, my
You treat
survey
it
was
as
like
one lot.
125 by 125.
Right, and you have one house on it.
One house on it, yes, and a garage.
Okay.
I'm opposed to the ideal because it's too close. My property is too close to the other houses. We live in a community. We don't live in a development where the houses are on top of one another.
Where does your house sit on that lot? Can you give us an idea?
It would sit right on Main Street, which is in front of the Rancher. Okay?
I mean, is it 25 feet off of the street?
I couldn't tell you how far off the street, but that's the front of the house on Main Street. That is the front.
Front's on Main, sits back from the street on Main, about how far would you say?
If the board members have our report, there's an aerial on page 2 of 3.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, what is across the street from you?
There's another house across the street.
Like, looking out your front?
Looking out the front window, there would be another house, which I think is an A, B, and B house, whatever,
On the other side of Main?
on the other side of Main, and then there's other commercial properties there.
Right, it's the red house that backs.
Yes.
Backs up to yours, yeah.
Okay, I see that. That front's 38.
Yeah, that's much.
All right, Mr. Smith, anything else you want to add?
I just feel that, being it's a community, even if you put another house there, they're not going to have any yard. Now the kids are going to be out playing on the street for a safety reason. It's just, everything is just too close. All I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to say something? I see no other hands up. Last chance. Okay, close public meeting. Board members, any questions you have off that last witness? Or any additional questions that you just thought of?
I see there's a fence in the rendering. Are you proposing to install a fence?
He intends to put a fence in. He intends to put a fence in, and it will comply with whatever the ordinance is.
Right, because you're going to be limited to how far a 6-foot-high
Right.
fence will have to come back 30 feet. You can do a 4-foot-high space picket fence 2 feet off the property line in the R2 zone.
Any fence will comply with the ordinance.
All right, Paul, we still have 1 or 2 people online?
No.
They dropped off?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any further thoughts from our professionals?
I just want to clarify, and if the board is considering that a fence is permitted in accordance with the municipal ordinances, or if the board wants to specify that a fence should be or must be provided. So I just think if, as you deliberate, to sort of clarify that point, because I wasn't sure what the testimony was in that regard.
Well, it's, the location of the fence is unclear. Talked about a fence being installed, not which lot, or whether it's both lots and where the fence would be. So maybe, Mr. Gleaner, maybe you should have your client testify, or you can represent.
Well, I mean, we can represent that any fence is subject to authorization and permission in accordance with the ordinance. I mean,
Right.
Do we need anything further than that? I mean, that's what any homeowner would have to do, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was asking more of, in response to concerns of the neighbors or concerns that the board has, is the board, if you consider granting the application, are you allowing them to have a fence, or is the board actually requiring them to provide a fence? So I just think that's something, as you deliberate, whether it's just up to them at their discretion, they may put a fence in, or whether the board says,
If the board wants to require us to have a fence in accordance with the ordinance, we have no problem with that either, because we plan to put a fence in. So, if they want to make a requirement as part of the
I guess-
approval, I have no problem with that.
I guess one of the questions that immediately comes to mind is, where is this fence proposed? We have a request to create 2 lots, and maybe it would be helpful to look at the lot plans. And
Well, once they get, if this were to go through, they're going to have to provide me with surveys, updated surveys. And at that point, I will be approving, according to the township ordinance, the location of any 6-foot-high, 4-foot-high, according to that zone.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this board needs to address that, but Mr. Kingsbury, you have any thoughts on that?
It's optional, we can require it as a condition, but or not require it.
Yeah.
It's your call.
yeah, I just wanted it to be clear, because in resolution compliance, I'm the one that has to review that. So if the board was heading that direction, then it should just be clear that you do want the fence, or if you're indifferent about the fence, then it's at the applicant's discretion.
I leave this at the board's discretion. If you want a fence, and the board thinks that's important, we agree to have a fence in accordance with the ordinance.
Well,
If you're
it gets
indifferent-
back to my original question, where is this fence going to go?
Well,
The board can't really make a judgment on that.
Right, well, that's going to be based on the zoning officer's.
Yeah, I think it's entirely premature, personally, I think it's entirely premature to
Which is why.
talk about the fence.
Right.
Unless you've got something that's, you absolutely positively know you want to do.
Well, he said he wants to put up a fence, and it's going to be there's going to be at least one between the 2 properties. I think that is appropriate.
So you're going to have to deal with the zoning officer.
Exactly, which is right back where we started.
All right, so we'll put the fence aside for
Okay.
purposes of the resolution.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions on this one? Mr. Kingsbury, for the board's benefit, how would you frame an affirmative resolution granting the requested?
Asking for a subdivision to create 2 lots, 2 buildable lots, and they will both require lot area variances and frontage variances.
And the existing house requires the backyard variance, correct?
No, it's just an existing non-conforming condition.
Okay.
The subdivision would be granted, though, with the existing non-conforming
Yes.
condition. Right. Okay, so that's the affirmative motion that is recommended by council. So do I have a board member who wishes to advance that motion?
Question. Are there going to be additional houses on both those lots?
Tish, the proposal is to create 2 buildable lots with a house on each.
Okay.
So 2 houses. One will be a new house, the other one will be the rehabilitated old house. So we still have the question of, does a member wish to advance a motion to grant the subdivision requested? I don't hear anyone coming forward. So I'll advance that motion, so we can have a vote on it. Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we now have a motion. You can vote yea, or vote it up, or vote it down, but it's on the table as proposed by Mr. Kingsbury.
Before you go any further, can I just remind you that if this goes any further, to please have in the resolution that COA is required on this new house? Please.
Put that in if the board makes it.
So noted, if the board votes yes. So a yes vote is in favor of the subdivision as laid out. A no vote is to deny the subdivision request. We have a roll call.
Mr. McKay?
No.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
No.
Mr. Bradley?
No.
Mrs. Kelly?
No.
Mayor Gilmore?
No.
Mr. Jacochi?
No.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
No.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gleaner. Thank you for your presentation. All right, the next matter is Case B, 2418, MBID of Delaware, doing business as Randolph Senior Estates. Counsel, come on forward and please identify yourself and tell us who you have with you.
Certainly. Can everybody hear me okay?
Can hear you very well.
Great. Generally, I'm not accused of being too quiet, so that's good news. Good evening. I'm Kate Coffey from Day Pitney. I'm here this evening on behalf of MBID of Delaware, LLC. The property that we are talking about is located at Block 24, Lot 10, which is 810 Marne Highway. Currently, the Christian Faith Assembly Church is located on the property, and they are the owners of the property, and we have several of their congregation members with us this evening as well. We are seeking amended preliminary and final site plan approval, as well as D, use variances, and associated C, bulk variances. To remind everybody about the proposal, what the applicant is proposing is to construct a 3-story, 70-unit, affordable senior building that consists of 63 one-bedroom units and 7 2-bedroom units. The church is proposed to remain on the property in addition to the residential building. As part of the original...
Before you proceed.
Sure.
I have a procedural issue. This involves a use variance.
So we have to
The
recuse.
members of the governing body are excused from the take a seat in the audience, or, as I heard someone suggest, please have.
Mr. Kingsbury, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
You have a 7-member board
Ah.
to vote on this. It's a use variance.
Understood.
Because there was originally a use variance, so any change to the prior approval is still a use variance.
That's correct.
You still have a quorum.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I just couldn't hear you.
So we have 2 members of the board that will step aside because of the use variance issue. But I want the clerk to announce that we still have a quorum to operate.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
There's 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we cut you off when you were
That's okay.
giving us a little, it would be helpful to the board if you gave us, as you were doing, a little history of
Yep.
this. Some of us will remember it, and previously.
It may be new
some
for
of them
others.
were not.
I'm happy to. So as I was saying, the proposal here is for the church to remain on the property, and the applicant is proposing a single residential building to consist of 70 units, all affordable, all senior. The breakdown is 63 one-bedroom units, 7 two-bedroom units. When the application was originally heard before the board in 2021, as I said, use variances were granted. The existing church is a non-conforming use, and the proposed multifamily affordable senior building is also not permitted in the zone. And in addition to that, we have multiple uses on the property, or that are proposed and that were previously approved as part of the original application, being the church and the proposed residential building. So those trigger D variances, which were granted as part of the original application, but as your chairman and your attorney stated, continue to be applicable to the application today. I should add that the 70-unit building is part of the municipality's affordable housing plan and its settlement with the court as part of its affordable housing obligation. In addition to the D variances that were previously granted, there are a number of C variances or bulk variances that are associated with the application, many of which were previously granted, but some of which have been modified as part of the amended application. I'll go through those quickly, just so folks are kind of oriented to what relief was previously granted and what relief we're seeking, and then I'll have our professionals come up and really talk about it since they're the ones who know. So the building size has modestly increased as opposed to what was previously approved. It has gone from 72,000 square feet to 72,998 square feet. The impervious coverage, the maximum permitted in the zone is 25%. Today, it's already non-conforming at 37.4%. As part of the originally approved application, we were approved to be at 49.8%. The applicant has now slightly reduced that impervious coverage and is now proposing 47.1% impervious coverage.
Okay. And was that accomplished by deleting parking area, or how was that accomplished?
So I'll let our engineer explain how, but my understanding is that it was by sort of tightening up the proposed impervious coverage in accordance with our stormwater management planning.
Okay.
The height of the building, the maximum permitted height is 35 feet. The church is currently at 29.8 feet. The original application for the residential building was approved at 38 feet 2 inches. The applicant is proposing to reduce that height to 36 feet 8 inches. So a variance is still required. It doesn't rise to the level of a D variance, but we still need a variance for the height, but it's slightly lower than what had previously been proposed.
Sounds like there was some redesign to the roof.
That's right. There was some redesign to the building as well, and you'll hear from our architect and others. There's some other redesigning for the building to comply with, for example, updated accessibility requirements and so on. So there's a little bit of a change to the building plans. The parking for the project, and this is consistent with what was originally proposed, there's a shared parking between the church and the residential use. You'll hear testimony from our experts that we have a good symbiotic relationship with the church, which of course their peak time is Sunday mornings, and their particular kind of peaks are when there's special events happening at the church, either holiday services or unfortunately funerals or things like that. However, we do propose to share parking with them. There are 158 spaces that would be required under your code for the church. There are 171 spaces that exist today. The applicant is proposing, I should say, as part of the original approval, and this has not changed, is there are overflow spaces that are proposed on the property that put you up to the 158 number, which includes spaces that are proposed to be overflow that can be accommodated on the existing basketball court, and also some spaces on the grass courts, 27 spaces on the basketball, 11 spaces on the grass, This is all part of the original approval. And then the applicant's proposing 48 spaces to be associated with the apartment building. Our professionals have testimony and exhibits to explain this further, but I wanted to orient everybody a little bit in terms of what we're talking about. Other variances that were previously granted that were associated with the original application and continue to be in place. There's a variance associated with the building length. The AH1 zone has a 200-foot building length requirement, and the original building exceeded that, and we continue to exceed that today. In terms of who we have with us this evening, I have Mark Schiffelli of Paulus Sokolowski and Starter, PS&S. He's the project engineer. He's going to orient everybody further to the property in the area around the property and also walk you through the proposed plan and particularly what has changed from the original application to today. We have Mary Johannesson of Thriven Design. She's our project architect. She's going to review the architectural features of the project as well as the changes to the building footprint that the chairman was just asking about. And we have John McDonough with us of John McDonough Associates. He's the project planner. As I said, most of the relief is not really new relief. It's relief that was previously granted by this board, although there have been some modifications to some of the bulk standards in particular. He'll be discussing that variance relief that we're seeking and also providing the proofs in support of our request for it. We have received review memoranda from your professionals, including a memoranda from your planner dated August 28th and from your engineer dated August 30th. If it's acceptable, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that Mr. Schiffelli come and join me and be sworn, please.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'd like to have our engineer join me up front and be sworn, please.
Yes. In
Thank
fact,
you.
if you have multiple witnesses, as you appear to have, if they all want to come up, we'll do one. We'll
That's
swear
great.
them all in. That way, if we happen to bounce around from witness to witness, everybody's sworn in.
Sure, that would be perfect. I also have a representative of the applicant who we don't expect to have testifying, but in case she has to jump up and talk about something, we might as well swear her now too, so we don't have to retread later.
Absolutely.
Great.
And the applicant is an LLC but with the name MVID of Delaware?
Correct.
And you use Randolph Senior Estates as sort of a trade name or a DBA or?
We're DBA Ingerman, which is a large development firm with offices in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware.
And
Randolph Senior Estates is the name of the project specifically.
Okay, so
Let me swear all of you in. Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
okay. So Ms. Coffey, who's first?
Up first is our project engineer. So I'd ask you to please introduce yourself and tell the board and the public about your experience and credentials.
Good evening. My name is Mark Cifelli. I'm a civil engineer licensed in the state of New Jersey, employed by PS&S out of our Wall Township office. I have 19 years experience in the field of civil engineering, over 13 as a licensed engineer, and my license is active and up to date.
Mr. Coffey, I don't think you ever appeared before this board before. Maybe you did back.
I did, yes.
When the original was.
Correct,
okay.
yes, in 2021.
And you've appeared before other boards like this throughout the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have, zoning and planning.
All right, we'll find Mr. Cifelli qualified to testify.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Okay, Mr. Cifelli, can you please orient the board to the property and its location?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we are located on Marne Highway, which is a county road.
And so we have an aerial
Correct.
photo that's been maybe colorized, maybe not, I don't know. We'll call that exhibit what for today? A?
A1?
A1, fine.
So this is an existing condition and demolition aerial overlay. Today's date on it, 9/4/24. Shows the existing site conditions overlaid on a fairly current near mountain aerial. We updated this from the previous presentation because the adjacent property was developed in the time that, since we were here last.
Right. Although it may be obvious, point out Marne Highway, point out the railroad track if it's
So
shown.
Marne Highway is on the left side of the page, which is north of the site, and the Conrail rail line is on the right side, on the south. We have St. Paul's Church on the bottom of the page, and then the new warehouse that was constructed on the top of the page. The existing church building is here in the top left corner of the page. And this dark area shown is the existing parking facility, which contains 171 spaces. There's also-
That parking facility is mostly grass field?
It's all asphalt.
It's all asphalt? Not the back of it's not grass?
Behind it, this area back here is vegetated and grass.
Okay.
These two objects here are solar panels. Those are a lease agreement with the church to have the solar panels, which will remain on the property. So we're proposing to develop in this rear corner of the site, working around the solar panel. We're making some modifications to the parking lot to adjust the configurations. We're adding some parking and also a fire access lane around the building, which I'll show you on the next exhibit. Parking lot will be milled and paved in some areas will be reconstructed, we're putting new utilities in, and the entire parking lot will be seal coated and restriped to freshen everything up. This is the existing basketball court on the property, which will remain, and we'll talk about the other pieces for that.
Where's the property line? Can you?
This is probably hard to see, but it's a yellow line.
Right, you superimpose the yellow line.
Yes.
Okay, that lower property line, just show that again?
Sure.
By the basketball court? Okay, thank you.
Sure. The acreage on the site is 6.4 acres. The property line does extend out to the center line of the road. There's a right-of-way line, and there's also a perpetual easement right-of-way dedicated to the county that extends further into the property. Once you take out those areas, the lot's closer to 6 acres. Now let's talk about some of our conditions in the county that could possibly impact that a little further as I get further into the presentation.
Okay, yeah, let's say, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what's being proposed? And I think we have a new exhibit, so we'll mark that A2.
If board members have questions with these big sheets, raise your hand so we get them covered while we have them up.
And just, can you give us the title of the sheet, just for the sake of the record?
This is a proposed site plan rendering, also dated 9/4/24. Shows that same aerial background map with our rendered site plan on top of it. You can see the existing improvements are still shown on here, as well as the proposed 70-unit building in the rear corner. One of the major changes we made since the previous approval was changes to the stormwater management system on the property. So the prior approval was before the latest rule update where DEP upped the stormwater quantities that we have to design to. So we had to enlarge our basins to handle that increase in rainfall. We enlarged the one in the rear, which takes the majority of the flow from the property. We had to add another basin beneath the fire access lane, as that's considered below the grade of the surface.
Would you say that again? But you're adding it beneath the fire access lane?
Yes, so
You'll explain how you do that.
Sure, yes. The fire access lane, which goes completely around the building, we worked through that with the fire official on the previous approval. It's a grass paver system, stabilized grass paver, so it's a geosynthetic plastic that helps to support a load up to 50,000 pounds. And below that, we have stone storage, so it's considered a porous paving system. The drain runoff gets treated by the grass surface before it gets into the stone bed below. And then there's an outlet control structure that discharges off-site.
It's sort of like an old-fashioned dry well.
Correct.
Okay.
So it allows water to perk into the ground. If there's a very large storm event, it would overflow and discharge off-site at a reduced rate compared to the existing.
Where off-site does it go?
The majority of the rear area gets discharged towards the adjacent property, which there's a stream that runs through here. It's an unmapped stream. We did perform analysis on that stream, used HEC-RAS to determine the flood hazard area associated with that. And we will have to make an application to DEP still to get approval for some of the impacts that we have on it. The flood hazard area is very minimal within our property. The stream pitches pretty well towards Norton Highway. So almost the majority of our runoff goes there, that's where it goes today as well. So we're maintaining drainage patterns on the site.
That run, or stream as you call it, dry most of the time, I take it?
Yes,
And it courses through the St. Paul's property?
yes. It goes under the parking lot, it's piped under that. It opens up, daylights again between the parking lot and Martin Highway, and then it gets lights towards the Franklin Street.
Okay.
But it was unmapped. We did find that over 50 acres flowing to it, so it's considered a stream under the DEP rules. So we performed our analysis on that to make sure it didn't have a negative impact on our property and vice versa. There's also some wetlands back in that area that we had mapped previously. So this transition area buffer is partially on our property. Our fire access lane does go through that buffer, as well as some of our basin-related improvements for the outfalls. But we would be averaging that on-site, which is permitted. So we have to get approval from the average, which would preserve additional land on the property to balance out the amount that we're disturbing.
How deep is your retention basin?
They're fairly shallow because they are mostly dependent on infiltration. Groundwater is not all that deep, so we had to keep them as shallow as possible. They're in the, I want to say, 3 to 4 feet.
3 to 4 feet? Okay.
So this one is an above ground basin, of course, porous paving and surface. We had 2 small fire retention basins that would take flow from the basketball court. We will be using the basketball court as overflow parking. Should be a church that has a need for additional parking, if you utilize that with direction of church staff to direct the traffic. It would be a stacked parking situation, which I think we had a previous variance or waiver to allow for that.
We did.
But that's considered motor vehicle surface because of that. We added stormwater management.
Are the basketball courts they're currently used as overflow parking or not?
No.
All right, so.
There's no curb cut to get to it today.
And is this plan going to do anything to the pavement in the basketball court to accept cars, which,
Drove by the site today. I think the basketball courts probably need some updating to the pavement so we can make sure that it's suitable for very occasional, I would say.
yeah, well, so occasional or not, I mean,
Yeah, it'll be suitable.
fill it with cars and it's going to have an impact, particularly on a warm day.
Mhm.
So,
Is there any discussion with the fire official about any form of chain across that at the basketball court?
so it doesn't become an everyday parking area?
Well, I'm relating it to one of our other projects that just closed out.
Yeah.
So I'm asking.
Yeah.
if that would-
So we have a bollard and chain fence on the far end of the access road.
Mark, where's the access into the basin?
Into the rear basin.
Or I mean, not into the basin, into the overflow basketball court.
Basketball court would be from the stabilized grass parking
So you actually have to drive,
over the stabilized grass.
right,
Yeah.
100 feet, make a left, or 70 feet, make a left, and then loop in? And then how will people get out of there?
Yeah, it would have to be organized by the staff.
And sort of valeted, and kind of backed in? All right.
Get they just back out and turn out that same entrance.
Yeah, I guess the question is control to keep people out of there
On a day-to-day basis.
6 days a week that you don't need the overflow.
Yeah, we could definitely add another bollard and chain at this access point to prevent that. And then that would have a knock box on it. Access and that's necessary.
Right, that might be advisable.
I would agree with that.
And upgrade the paving to accept cars.
Yes.
Sidewalk is obviously, I don't know that it's shown on this particular map, that's still incorporated
Yes, we have
on the
a design
warehouse?
route
In the front?
along the frontage. It is.
Okay.
So we actually did get a few comments from the county recently. I think it was discussed at our previous hearing that it may need to be 5 feet wide. On our submission now, we had it at 4 feet, but we had some turning areas within 200 feet of each other, which is accepted by ADA, but it seems like the county wants it to be 5 also, so we're probably gonna have to make that change.
Since you're on the sidewalk, is there a bus stop?
There's not, there's 2 stops within a quarter mile though, on Maple Avenue and Maple Lane.
Right, okay.
They're both about a quarter mile away. There's sidewalk now at the.
Sidewalk goes to the corner now, and actually around the corner too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
There
where.
would be access to that. We hadn't reached out to Transit about adding a bus stop. And that was, part of the reason was we did see those 2 other existing stops.
Right.
So that's why we didn't address that comment.
That you did inquire about a bus stop with NJ Transit?
We have not.
You have not?
So sorry, I'll clarify. I did speak this morning, Elizabeth Kim, Penguin Development. I did speak this morning to Bruce Morgan, who was the previous developer on the project. And he had indicated that back in 2001, when this was first discussed, that he did reach out to NJ Transit. NJ Transit felt it was premature to have that discussion, that they wanted us to reach this stage of development, to reach more final plan approvals, and then they would be willing to reopen the discussion with us.
And we in turn would be
Yes,
willing to
reopen
reopen
the discussion
with them.
with them. But yes, currently there is a stop just down the road, and we will have on-site van transportation that is solely for residents of the project. That will be funded and run by the project. That will offer transportation to a few local stops that we had envisioned, the grocery store, to the Virtua Health, to the post office, and places such as that.
That's a daily service?
It would be currently contemplated to be once or twice a week service.
Okay.
Before we get too far afield, when I was first getting going, the chairman had asked about the reduction in impervious surface coverage between the original application and the new application. And since we were talking stormwater, I thought we should at least address that while we're talking.
Yeah, I think the bulk of that change is really the reduction in the rear patio space. But otherwise, there weren't any significant changes, just little reductions throughout. And one thing to mention is that the county does also have a requirement for an ultimate right-of-way, which would further push the right-of-way 7 more feet into the property. If that needs to be a dedication at the county, that would impact our lot area, which would actually push it back up to, it was
49.8?
less than that still. Still less than the previous. It was, 48.5 with the reduction in lot area. That would likely be required if it needs to be dedicated versus an easement.
Okay.
So we'd still be under the previous approval, although it is an impervious coverage variance still. And that would also impact the setback on the existing building, but it would still be more than 35 feet, which is the requirement, so no variance is necessary for the existing facility.
I may be jumping ahead on your outline, but could you address issues of signage and lighting?
Sure. So signage, we have a double-sided monument sign. We did rotate it 90 degrees from the previous approval, so that's better visible in both directions.
So, I'm just pausing. When you say you rotate it 90 degrees, that means it's perpendicular to Martin Highway, correct?
And that would have LED wall wash lighting on the lighting itself, directed towards the text.
And that announces the apartments or the church or both?
That is the apartments.
The apartments only?
The church has an existing sign, which is further.
Yeah, it's further down.
Up here.
Okay.
And that would remain,
The sign is proposed to read Randolph Senior Apartments, correct?
senior citizens.
Senior State, oh, can't even read my own writing. Yes.
Yes.
So the letters will not be illuminated, there will just be an LED external illumination source washing the wall.
Yes.
In your packet, did you have an example of the sign or no?
We do. I can actually, I have 11 17s.
There was
This is from, it's a typical sign for the developer. They use other properties. It's very neutral. It's designed to blend with the building.
And just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, there is a sign detail in the submitted plans, but this is a colorized version that would give you,
Your submitted plans that came to us are so small that I had, and other board members
trouble
commented
seeing the details.
that they had a hard time reading them.
Well, hopefully this will be easier to see. And I suppose we should probably mark one of these as Exhibit A3 as well.
This is an illustration of another location, I take it.
Correct. It's the signage that's used throughout the
But
applicant's.
it's their signature sign.
Correct.
Okay.
And just while Mr. Sfelli's passing them out, I'll say that I'll let him talk about the colors. You want to hear it from him rather than me.
It says at Whiting.
Right, so this is an example of an existing sign, ma'am, but it would be the same dimensions as what's shown there, but we wanted to show you what it looks like in real life. And Mr. Spelly, can you talk about the colors that are on the exhibit that you just shared with folks? Are those consistent with what's being proposed?
Yes, so the base will be brick to match the building. There is brick on the facade, so it'll be the same color. The top of the sign is a very neutral beige, gray, I guess it is.
And that brick's the same as the brick on the building?
It will be.
Yeah. So this is going to say, what is it going to say at Haynes?
Instead of Birchwood at Whiting, it would say Randolph Senior Estates.
At Hainesport?
Senior Community.
At Hainesport?
Randolph Senior Estates is currently the proposed.
Okay. Not, this one has at Whiting, I just,
Correct.
So
So
you-
that's an example of a currently existing sign on one of our properties. There was a detail that was shown in the plan, which apologies if it's.
yeah, well, that's all right. Whiting's in the middle of nowhere, so if you didn't have a sign that said where you were, you wouldn't know where you were.
Would not know where you are.
But you'll know you're in Hainesport.
We have a more colorized visual example of what an existing sign is, of the materiality of the quality of the finishes that we would be utilizing for this sign.
Right, and to answer our planner's question, get back to that, there's going to be a wash of light over this as opposed to an internally lit sign? Or did I misunderstand?
Yeah, the detail has it. It shows it's not like the wall wash light, so it's mounted to the top, like that concrete slab on top of the brick, and directed at the text of the sign
Okay,
on both sides.
okay.
So Scott, you'll need that note going to plan that you will approve this before.
Yeah, the details will need, whatever outstanding issues can get worked out through resolution compliance.
Thank you. And I think the chairman also, in addition to asking about lighting,
Throughout the site.
yep, lighting is where we're
Lighting.
headed
Thank you,
next.
Ms.
Yep.
Yeah. We did make some adjustments to the lighting for the comments received previously. So we were mostly focused around the senior building, but we did have light coverage presented throughout the parking lot. Previously, we had some lower areas where we were at 0.5 foot candles, which under IESO is pretty typical. But the recommendation was to get closer to one, actually to get to 1 foot candle minimum. So we made some adjustments to the light fixtures and we're able to get to that point. We have outside shield on any of the lights that are in close proximity to the building, so there'll be no spillage into the residents' windows. And there's also no spillage at the property lines. Commercial uses above us and non-residential below us also, but we still have no spillage, which is ideal. All LED fixtures, they would be dusted on, and there also should be dimmable if necessary.
And there was some confusion between the engineering plans and the architectural plans with respect to the height of the wall-mounted lights. Those will be at 12 foot 6 inches, correct?
Correct, the architectural had it at 12 foot 6, so we're going to adjust.
Are they at the rear of the building as well? Any lighting?
They were only on the front facades. There was also a comment added on the patio space, which we'll do. I think that's any of that. So we had it at 12 feet, so we're certainly 6 inches up to be consistent with architectural plans, which consider the window elevation and everything else.
How about the patio area in the back, that lit?
Currently it's not, but we're gonna add, right now it just has egress lighting at the doors, but we'll add some site lighting. To bump up the windows.
Can I, well, unless you have some more new, I was going to ask you to just touch on trash and recycling. There was a question in one of the memoranda we received about the pads that are shown. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, we have a single pad located at the corner of the parking lot. It's a reinforced concrete pad. It has bollards for protection. That would only be for pickup days, and they would roll out a dumpster from the trash compactor room. So it'd be stored within the building primarily, rolled out, and then a private hauler would pick it up. As it's rolled out, they can roll it out into the aisle and have the head-on pickup. Or if there's no cars parked in this center aisle, they have easy access from that direction as well.
But, other than trash day, it's inside?
Correct.
How do the residents dispose of their trash and their recyclables?
I'll let Mary.
Yeah, our architect will talk through that process for you. She's coming.
I feel like it makes things a little more sanitary. We don't have the waste constantly outside for rodents.
And also, that way our seniors don't have to be carrying their trash outside to dispose of it. It's a nice accommodation for them as well.
Right. Refresh my recollection, but I guess, well, you gave me the number of units. 63 one-bedrooms, 7 two-bedrooms, if my count is correct, so that's 70. So does that imply, well, what does that imply in terms of the number of people, 140? Or just total people in the complex if it's rented out?
Yeah, it would be in that range. We typically find that for our senior building, the majority of the population of the residents are in their 70s. They are downsizing from either renting or owning a home, and they no longer desire to have the maintenance and upkeep of owning a home, which I can't really for. Most all are single or couples, 2 bedrooms, really non-communities, and are for couples more so than that.
Thank you.
Yes, I would say the range would be the same as the high side average.
Okay.
So was this, inside this building was, and I don't recall exactly right, was there going to be some type of office or something where there was like a medical, where besides the rental office, was there any kind of facility that was?
I'm going to let our
our
architect touch on that, if that's okay with you. So stay tuned. Now we've got 2 for her, but she's coming. Let's see, Mr. Cifelli, can you touch on landscaping, please?
Sure. I think we have a pretty comprehensive landscaping plan. We have a mixture of primarily native species, so really drought tolerant, will do well in these locations. One of the comments in the letters was a little bit of irrigation at the property. We do not anticipate the need for irrigation due to them being native plantings. Just need to be careful during the first couple of years as the plants get established. But beyond that, they're pretty self-sufficient. The species that we selected. There's a mixture of shade trees, evergreen trees for buffering, and ornamental trees for color throughout the site. And there are landscaping provided around the building, mostly in the front foundation plantings with smaller shrubs and ground covers. Around the patio area, we have some shrubs and some ornamental trees, some trees between the solar panels and the parking to kind of buffer those from the north side of those. We have 3 trees in the rear that I think it was suggested that due to change of species or relocate those, so those could potentially block some of the solar field. And then we have some.
And we'll comply with that suggestion, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, just to keep us on the same page.
And to save potentially some time, we had a number of just minor technical issues in our report. Will you agree to address?
Yep, we'll comply with all of them, yep. And one of the items that was in your report, Mr. Taylor, was compliance with the tree replacement ordinance, and we'll comply with that as well. I don't know whether that counted as one of the minor technicals, but
I mean, have you given any thought to at least limited irrigation? I mean, it does, in a complex this big, it does keep everything.
Yeah, I think the only spot that would really be helpful probably is the foundation plantings, where you could just do a simple drip irrigation system. That would help to maintain those. But otherwise, it's pretty good soils out here. And,
But even that grass in the front, to Tom's point, is, we just went through the summertime, and I'm sure everybody's lawn looked beautiful, being sarcastic. If that's kept water, it appears from the street much more attractive than a brown lawn, which becomes dirt. You know, just, you know, your basin will probably be the only thing to read.
yeah, I think the applicant would be willing to put that in.
So maybe what we can do, and I think we talked a little bit, if a drip line is run through, the foundation is really kind of important and very, if you're going to put a controller in, running a drip line through there, that area between the parking lot and the building bakes. So I think that's good. And then, to sort of get to your point, running one line or two runs of irrigation, I want to try to make sure that we define that area that the board and everybody's thinking, so we're all sort of clear on that.
because this area here is the detention basin, so that
Obviously, I don't
stays a little greener.
So, Mark, can you point out the area that we would be putting in the system that you're thinking of?
Sounds like it would be this area here, where you have to really view from the street frontage.
So this is, for the sake of the record, it's the lawn area that's in front of really the existing church building going out towards Marne.
Right, so I guess the northern, from the area between the parking lot itself and Marne Highway.
Right, on the other side of the entrance, on the northern side of the entrance?
Well, I think we're talking about both sides of the entrance, but not including the detention basin.
Okay.
Obviously.
It's the front, say it what it is, it's the front yard.
So,
It's the
right,
front lawn.
going all, okay,
And, you
From
know,
the
I
parking,
think,
right, on the street side of the parking
Yeah.
lot, accepting out the basin.
yeah, I really think that, you know, it's gonna make your place look much better, have the plants will do
Even
better,
with-
everybody will be happier, and it's not a huge
Sign,
expense.
You don't want to have a brown behind that. That looks good.
yeah, we agree. Yep.
Okay.
And I gotta say too, I would love it to say at Hainesport. That's just my opinion.
I have to get the agreement on this too.
I'm proud of my town, I'm sorry.
It's named for the former pastor of the church.
Okay.
So that's like Randolph Senior Estate.
Well, I think the comment was Randolph Senior Estates at Hainesport.
Correct.
Or Hainesport, New Jersey, or some,
Or something.
Something. To mention our
That would be a
town.
way that we can indicate Hainesport on the signage and all.
Been spending a lot of time on this thing.
That you feel comfortable that doesn't remove
Oh, my
We'll work it in.
And to go back to the watering, if you use more native plants, you use less water. And that was recommended by members of our environmental commission at our last meeting. So, I would encourage you to use native plants that are native to this area.
I think that you mentioned that you had swapped out some ornamentals for native plants,
Yeah, we're primarily native.
and you're gonna do primarily native. So you'll adjust the water flow to the needs of the native plant.
So you're not using any ornamental plants then, is that?
We do have some ornamentals. We have.
Foundation plantings, things like that.
So the ornamentals we have are
Well, we shouldn't,
Really limited, it's only,
let's not use ornamental or native, because some natives are ornamentals, so we should either say native versus non-native.
so even the ornamentals we have are eastern redbud and the orange is specifically for both.
Yeah, so Tish, they have, from their last submission, changed out a number of these, and I think the applicant is agreeing to even take that a few steps further to maximize the use of natives out here. But some of their ornamental trees, they have birch, redbud, hornbeam, that are ornamental trees, and natives, so they actually fit both.
Because I told the group that I was putting you in charge, and you always did a very good job. So we're counting on you.
You're setting me up for failure.
Okay.
All right, what else are we doing?
Can we circle back on one thing, because my notes, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right.
On the bus stop, I had notes from the preliminary hearing that Mr. Morgan said that the applicant will request a bus stop from NJ Transit.
Yes.
So I wasn't quite sure how we sort of resolve that as part of this. Is that sort of carried through? Is one going to be requested?
I think it would have to be, if we were to be approved, I think it would be a condition of the resolution that would require the applicant to make a fresh request now that we have an approval, and hopefully at that point, NJ DOT would feel like it's a timely request at last, now that we've said, here we are, we have final site plan approval, and we'd certainly be willing to do that.
And it's a request that comes from the township as well, not just
Yeah,
from
and
you.
I think we would.
So if it's, if the condition is that we can only ask you to request it, but we do.
Yep, and it's a benefit to the community as well, so we'd be happy to ask for it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about a bus stop, you're not probably familiar with it, but just down the road by Winsinger's, there's a bus stop. By the Catholic Church, you're probably not even understanding what I'm talking about, but there is a formal bus stop. It's like a Philly-type bus stop, glass.
Yep.
Enclosed, 2 sides or 3 sides, something like that. Is that what you would be seeking for this area, or something not quite as fancy?
Well, I think it, ultimately, we'll take what they give us, but if we can have it, that we would be happy to have that. If they don't want to.
Better than a sign that says the 29 bus stops here.
Mm-hmm, yeah, so I think if we can, if they'll give us something that fancy, we would love it. If they say you already have a fancy bus stop in close proximity, then we'll take what they permit us to have, because we do agree that having the bus stop is a benefit if we can get it.
Okay, but you'll ask for the fancy version?
We'll ask for the fancy version.
Thank you.
And that-
Yep.
I don't know if it'll help if you coordinate with the owners of the warehouse. They're gonna need a bus stop to partner with them and see if they, kind of 2 against 1 kind of deal.
Sure.
Might help out.
Maybe you can get them to donate a fancy bus stop.
There you go.
Maybe.
Saying.
That was off the record.
Yeah, I don't know who said that. That's a good idea nonetheless. So yes, we will continue to pursue a fancy bus stop and see if they will approve it, and we'll represent that it's something that the township very much wants, and we'll try to partner with our neighbors to see if maybe we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. Speaking of the bus stop, I was going to ask Mr. Cifelli to next just remind everybody of the overall circulation on the site, just so everyone remembers how that works. I know we touched a little bit on the overflow parking lot, but just to give everyone a refresher.
Yeah, sure. So currently there's a single entrance to the property. Based on RSIS requirements, anytime you have over 100 parking spots in residential use, then you either have to have a secondary access point, or you can split your driveway and have a median at the entrance. Based on the size and shape of the lot here, we decided to do a split driveway. So we have a single lane in and a left turn and right turn lane leaving this site for better traffic flow, making the left, which is more difficult. As you come in the site, you have 2-way access up to this point here at the corner of the building, and then it turns into 1-way, which is this first row of parking, which is closest to the senior building. Everything else is 2-way flow. Part of the reason for making this 1-way, we do have a drop-off area, so like a loading zone for drop-off to the residents right next to the main entrance, which is appropriate for the age of the community. We have ADA parking stalls located in close proximity to the main entrance. And we also added electrical vehicle charging stations as required by the New Jersey law. So we needed 15% of the parking stalls dedicated for the residential use to be EV, which equated to 8 spaces, which we provided on, we have 6 spaces, 2 spaces here, 1 ADA space as required, which is 5% of the total, and the remainder would be along this row here. 3 of those have to be installed and operational at the time of CO, and the remaining are over the 6-year period, but they would have to all be pre-wired and made ready to be installed. They would all be Class 2 chargers as required. We also have 1 ADA charger for the church. 1 charger is based on new spaces that are added to the church, which we have the overflow parking, and that we have less than 50 spaces, so it's only 1 EV charger required, and that would be installed at CO. Parking stalls are all being restriped, they're all typical sizes for the most part, 9 by 18. Existing parking lot is shape is remaining generally the same in the church areas. And then we have additional ADA parking for the church. So there's 2 in this corner, and then another 6 spaces in close proximity to the main church. All the ADA, or all the sidewalks on site are ADA compliant, providing access into the main entrance of the building, into the amenities, courtyard space, and to all the outdoor amenity spaces. Ground floor.
And even, so the number of units, the number of bedrooms has not changed since the original application, and thus the traffic being generated from the proposed residential building hasn't really changed, but we did submit an updated traffic report that concluded that the traffic still works within the community, correct?
Yeah, the report was submitted by the traffic engineer. No change. The level of service they determined was level B or C, which is towards the better end of level of service conditions. And they noted that there's good consistency with the senior type of use in the traffic flow during the early morning and early afternoon hours, which makes it easier for them to look at the traffic flow through the site.
Yeah, a question popped in my head when you say senior. I never know what the age, what is the age limit?
55 and over is
55 and over.
55 and over, we do find that the vast majority of our residents tend to be their late 60s through early 70s.
Okay.
It's 55 and over, and anyone 55 and over is welcome, but that doesn't tend to be the rule.
And just for clarification, the age restriction, deed restriction, that is indefinite, that runs in perpetuity with the site forever.
For 45 years, it runs.
What, no, the age restriction.
The age restriction, yes,
So that will be, this will be age-restricted apartments in perpetuity. The affordability restrictions,
is 45 years.
Okay.
For the tax credit.
right. So I just wanted the board to know that the day will come when the affordability component expires, but it will always be age-restricted.
Right, cost of living will be different 45 years from now.
It will be. My only other suggestion, this goes back to the comment about a third of the chargers have to be done at CO, a third in 3 years, and a third in 6 years. With some of the other HMFA-funded projects, it's hard to get money in the future, so it may do them all at once up front. All right.
Found it's easier to do them all.
Yeah, agreed. I just wanted to suggest, yeah.
Yeah, because you're wiring everything, so it's.
Yeah.
They're not.
Plus, no one remembers, oh, in 3 years, we got to come back. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, so do we need to make that a condition, or you're just agreeing to do it?
I think they're going to comply with the law, but I think they're going to do it faster than required, which I just wanted to suggest it.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if it's acceptable, I thought maybe we would touch on the memoranda that we received from your professionals.
Yeah, if you could just go through that, and then
Yep.
if we're basically accepting everything.
I'll just say that.
Except for
Mhm.
whatever the couple that you might have a question about.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start with the memoranda we received from Richard Olemo Association of Engineers, since we have our engineer. It's dated August 30th. I'm just gonna kind of take it from the top. So I agree, I think we've covered the sections that asked for testimony on certain items. We will comply with comments 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And just for the record, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 were all requests for testimony, which we think we've covered. And then 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12, this is under the site plan section, we will comply with. In the grading, drainage, and utility plan section, which is comments 13 through 24, we'll comply with all of the comments there. Sorry. Then we'll comply with the drainage calculations, comments when we receive them. So now I'm up to construction details, which is comments 26 through 32. We'll comply with all of those. I'm sorry, you guys. Try to be well careful. And then in the general comments section, we will comply with comments 33, 34, 35, 36, and 38. And then there was a comment in 37 that the applicant should submit certification that all taxes on the property have been paid. We did submit something as part of our application. The church is currently tax exempt, but we did submit something nonetheless as part of the application, and of course we can demonstrate that further as we go through the resolution compliance process. So that's our engineer's memo. And then there were some items that we had received in Mr. Taylor's memo that pertain to engineering, if I may touch on those as well.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Just let me get organized. Okay, hang on. So in this memo that we received, which is from Taylor Design Group dated August 28th. Okay. So I'll kind of take it from the top. I'm in section C, which is the beginning, section E, general comments. So number 1 was a request to testimony, which we provided. Number 2, our architect's going to touch on, so sit tight on number 2.
But those details will be provided on the plan?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, they will be provided on the plan as well. So I guess we can call that a will comply. Then 3 we covered in testimony. 4, Mr. Svelli, you wanted to touch on? Yep. So go ahead.
That's referring to the 4-foot sidewalk that we have that runs from the corner of the building here to the Warren Highway, which is, it's 4 feet wide. We do have a grass strip between the parking stalls here and the sidewalk. I think Mr. Taylor suggested either moving the sidewalk closer to the parking and widening it to 6 feet or adding parking bumpers. I would not want to make it 6 feet just to limit the impervious coverage. We're pretty maxed out on our stormwater management with all the way. Moving it closer. One thing I've also done on other properties is put a gravel strip. It's still impervious, I guess, but not going to generate as much water. Or if we could leave it 2 feet off of a smaller grass strip.
The one concern is that existing light pole in 4A, that light pole is kind of in the middle of the walk. So shifting it, moving it, widening it, as long as, if the board has a strong preference, you can let us know. Otherwise, we can just sort of work that out as a condition of approval.
It would definitely address the conflict of the light.
Work it out.
We'll work it out.
Got it.
Okay, I'm moving on. Number 5, we will comply. Number 6, we'll provide shrub plantings to limit the vehicular movement across the detention basin. 7, we already covered in testimony. 8, we covered in testimony. 9, I'm going to have our architect cover in terms of the accessibility comments there, so we'll come back to it. Same with 10.
And we don't necessarily have to get into testimony on 9. The issue is you guys will provide the FFE so we can ensure accessibility?
Certainly.
All right.
Yeah. And it will be accessible.
Because the board doesn't need to hear, well, this
Yeah,
would be
not to let the
90.3.
cat out of the bag, but it will be accessible, and
Yeah.
we will certainly provide that information to you. 10, our architect will touch on, but there will be reentry, so it will be accessible. Okay, then, yep, that's where I was going, Mr. Cifelli. So number 11 is asking about whether there's going to be any disturbance within the Conrail right-of-way. Can you touch on that, please?
So there's no intention to do any disturbance in the right of way. There are trees that are very close to that line. There's potential that we may impact them with our grading activity for the basin. But in that case, we would need to coordinate with Conrail for replacement of those trees if there was damage to them.
There's an area where your tree protection fencing and your disturbance, all right, so.
We were following the tree lines.
That's fine, all right.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Because I was going to say, like, it didn't seem logical on having to ask and deal with them.
No.
That's, okay.
Okay. 12, we will comply. 13, we touched on already in testimony. The wall height's going to be the 12'6" to address the discrepancy. 14, we will comply. The height is the 36'8". 15, we will comply. So 16 was on bike racks. I think we haven't touched on that yet, but we will relocate them, right? We'll comply. Okay. 17, we will comply. 18, we touched on that in testimony already regarding the trash pads.
I don't know if that meant, like, waste receptacles.
Oh, I suppose we should ask. That's what I thought it meant. So the comment in 18 says the plan appears to propose trash receptacles. They should be labeled and a detail should be provided. So I'm not sure if that was with regard to the pad areas where the trash is getting wheeled out. That's what I thought it meant.
Oh, I'm sorry, on 19?
18.
Oh, 18, sorry, I already jumped along.
Maybe the light fixtures on the landscape plan that you saw. There's like rounds.
Yeah, let me double check with Elaine on that. We'll,
But we'll
yeah, because your trash receptacles, you
Are
don't
gonna-
have any.
Right, they're
all
going to be inside.
inside and then wheeled out onto the pad, right?
Mhm.
All right, so let's strike 18.
Okay. 19, we will comply. Let's see. 20, we will comply, well, let's talk a little bit. So 20, the comment was we might want to consider connecting the front patio to the sidewalk to limit foot traffic through the planting bed. And can you just touch on the path there?
We didn't connect it. We had a buffer strip between the parking and the patio area. Really, there's pretty limited privacy without that.
Okay.
And then the direct access right from the main entrance south of the patio.
The main thing I think we want to do then is there are a couple little gaps in that hedge. So I think, well, no, because if you put a stepping stone, then people are just going to cut through the hedge. So I would either tighten the hedge up so it literally is solid,
Yeah.
because otherwise somebody's going to try to step through and then it can be a tripping hazard. So I don't think it needs to be there. Let's just, if we want to keep that private.
Yeah, so we'll tighten up the planting there. 21 has subparts A through G. We will comply with all of them.
I think we touched on everything in lighting and landscaping.
Cool, thank you. And our architect will touch on building design. So we're through your memo, Mr. Taylor. But, Mr. Chairman, we're happy for our engineer to answer any other questions that the board may have or its professionals.
Well, while we have Mr. Cifelli up, do the board members have any questions directed at his topics? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Okay. Next, I have Ms. Johannesson joining me. She's the project architect. Share with you if you want. Okay, so Ms. Johannesson, you've already been sworn, but could you please introduce yourself to the board and the public and tell them about your experience and credentials?
Good evening. My name's Mary Johannesson. I'm a principal with Thriven Design. Our offices are located at 756 Haddon Avenue, Collingswood, New Jersey. I am a licensed architect in good standing in the state of New Jersey, and I am the design architect for the preliminary through today. So I was involved with the original design, and I am aware of any changes that I can talk this evening about.
I'd ask that Ms. Johansson be accepted as an expert in our case.
Accepted. Thank you.
Okay, now that you're official, can you please walk us through, remind everybody as to the building that is being proposed, and also point out the changes that the applicant's currently proposing, please?
Certainly.
If I can, this is a new exhibit.
I think we're up to A4.
A4 is architectural sheet A6 renderings for Randolph Senior Estates dated 9/4/2024. This is an updated color rendering of the proposed building. The lower rendering shows the entire building as viewed from the parking lot. And in the upper right corner, the rendering is just a bit zoomed in on the entrance because it's a larger building. We wanted to show a little bit more detail here. And in the upper left corner is the color palette that calls out the materials used on the exterior of the building along with the color. There have been no changes to the building exterior materials or colors. So we have a charcoal roof with light gray siding, white siding, a reddish tone brick, and the gable bays along the front have the accent of the deep ocean color, which is like a dark navy, dark gray color. The building sign will have the base made out of the same red brick material. The background will be complementary to the light gray, and then the darker letters will provide the contrast. So the site sign will be designed to be compatible with the building design. On the exterior of the building, it was noted that the building height has changed. At the preliminary, we rounded up a little bit to make sure that we had adequate height. And as this building has now been designed, we're going through construction drawings. The structural engineer right-sized all the floor and roof trusses. That's why it came down just a little bit. But it has the same type of design where it's essentially a flat roof, but around the front edges, it has a sloped roof. So all the mechanical equipment that is on the roof will be concealed by the sloped roof. There was a question, I think, or comment related to the mechanical equipment. Not all of it will be on the roof. There are approximately 19 small condensing units that will be on the back of the wings, so none of them will be visible from the front of the building. And that's a requirement based upon some changes to the technology and the refrigerant that limits how far the refrigerant lines can go. So the apartments on the first floor and the common areas will have their mechanical equipment, which are about the size of a small suitcase, at grade behind the building. The other change that you'll notice on the elevation is the balconies. The original design, some of the units, I would guesstimate approximately 50%, had a very small balcony. So from 2021, when we originally designed the building, to today, New Jersey has adopted new building codes. Those have adopted new accessibility codes. And when we updated all the unit designs in common areas, the building grew a little bit. And we could not accommodate the accessibility to those small balconies as we could have under the earlier building codes. So what we did is we removed them. And we made a larger community room on the first floor for all residents. And we took 2 smaller patios at the back and combined them into one. So we have a little bit more building square footage, which was part of the one of the earlier comments made.
We still have 2 patios. We have a large one off the community room that residents can go from the community room out and then come back in. That is where we will be adding some exterior lighting, as was previously testified. We also have a small patio in the front. You know, I know a lot of seniors like to sit out front and watch the comings and goings. Both patios will be scored concrete, and they will both have furnishings. So here you see some small, like cafe tables and chairs with umbrellas. That will be on the front patio as well as the rear patio. So they will be furnished so that the residents can have activities out there.
When you say scored concrete, is that like a pattern that's
Yes.
pressed in?
Yes. Not pressed in, but just cut into maybe like a diamond pattern.
Okay.
There was a question earlier about interior spaces. So we have a community room and an exercise room for the residents. We do have a management leasing suite. We have 2 other spaces that will help support the residents as they age. We support a services office, so an office dedicated to social worker to come in, as well as a wellness office. I think that's what you maybe were commenting on, where visiting nurse or physician can come for wellness checks, for nutritional education, for helping administer flu shots and things like that. So there will be some services that can come to the residents within their building. Another question came about trash.
Thank you.
So knowing that these are, you know, seniors, we want to make trash easy and clean. So there's a compactor on the first floor, and there's a trash chute that connects the 3rd to 2nd to 1st floor. So residents can walk down the hall, open the door to the trash room, put their trash in the chute, and it goes down. Recyclables will also be collected in that room, and management will then bring them down. They will be stored in the building until pickup day. Pickups will be scheduled, the containers will be rolled out, emptied, and then rolled back in, so there will be no containers on site at any other time except prior to pickup.
Are you ready for me to interrupt your train of thought?
All right.
Okay. I was just going to, since we're talking, I was just going to touch on those last couple items that we had reserved from the planner's report for you. So one was regarding whether there was going to be re-entry to the building from the rear patio. Can you talk about how that would work?
That is correct. Residents will have access out and then back into the building from the patio.
Okay, thank you.
How's the key card control, the security control? I take it you don't use keys anymore?
Often it's a fob type system, but
Yeah, it's a key fob system that we have, and there will be someone, there's going to be full-time maintenance and management staff, 40 hours a week, who will be at the front door monitoring the comings and goings in, and all residents will have their own fobs. We use the butterfly system, that allows access and entry for the residents, both in the front door, we allow that way in.
It gets them in their individual unit and it gets them in the common doors.
How is the mail handled?
Does the mail? So, mail is internal to the building. So, postmaster, mail carrier comes in the building. Every resident has their own USPS regulated mailbox. There are parcel boxes, and we also have a room for packages. So if Amazon delivers packages, they can be delivered to the room, and management can let the residents know to come down and pick them up.
In your bathrooms, have you upgraded to the new ADA code for the scooters?
I don't know for scooters, but
Well,
the new ADA regulations have increased the turning radius, which is one of those things that went from 5 feet to 5 feet 7 inches, which
And they've done that?
is being accommodated through all the apartments. So we're an elevator building. 5% will be fully wheelchair accessible on day one. All the others will be adaptable. So as a resident ages in place, if they need grab bars added or a counter or cabinet lowered, that can be accommodated.
That's nice.
I don't have any other questions for Ms. Johannesson, so if others do, we're happy to answer them.
Board members? Questions?
If I could just point out one thing,
Sure.
I think there was a question about the signage. So we do have letters on the
Oh.
building that are noted on the architectural building elevation. There will be 14-inch high, wall-mounted, internally lighted metal letters. These will be aluminum reverse channel with the LED lighting on the back. Here they're shown in white. I believe they will be black, but they are shown on the elevation.
So reverse channel lit, so it'll be solid from the front, it'll throw a wash on the wall, and you'll see the negative.
That's correct. I think that's why we went with the black letters. It will give us better contrast for seniors to see.
How do you control the, for lack of a better word, the smell from your trash?
Within the trash compactor room, you mean, before it goes out?
So in the trash rooms on each floor, the trash chute is sealed. There's a door that is like on a hinge, so it closes up. Those all have exhaust fans. So those, the smells are exhausted from those rooms. And the compactor room has as well an exhaust fan that runs continuously.
So it just blows that smell outside?
Yes.
I mean, there's other ways to control that with an ionizer or something along that line. That, I don't know, 'cause I don't know about anybody else, but I've been in a facility in Philadelphia where that actually had a problem for one day. And that backed up, and the entire building was disgusting, for lack of a better word. And I'm just looking for something that might be a backup, or, you know, obviously, if something goes down or your trash doesn't get picked up, because it does happen. You know, I'm from the supermarket business, I've been involved in this. And if things that people throw away, you know, they invite their grandkids over. They got dirty diapers in there, there's food that they ate yesterday, they're having crabs for dinner. That, it gets ugly. And all I'm wondering is.
So that explanation's already ugly. I'm sitting here smelling.
And in the heat, it's probably not an air-conditioned room, so there's a lot of things that, if something happens, I mean, it's gonna happen bad. And I don't know what if there's a backup plan, or how we could.
We have multiple.
I'm more concerned for your residents than I am for
Yeah,
the
I
town.
understand. I mean, we have multiple buildings like this. We have maintenance professionals who are on site 40 hours a week, so if things like that happen, you know, they can go and clean the trash chute. If there's a spill in the room, you have somebody who's available to immediately go in and cleaning and disinfecting the room. And we have 24/7 on, you know, maintenance on call for the hours that they aren't there too. So if something happens and the residents of the crabs down there, there's a smell, we have residents around here. We have maintenance staff who are at the ready to come in and take care of this.
From what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're going to have somebody, management person on site pretty much 24/7.
Well, we have a management person who will be there, management and maintenance will be there 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. And then we have on-call management and maintenance with all of their remaining time. So we have a full-time maintenance and
Right.
management staff person.
All right, when you say on-call, who makes the call?
The residents can, if there's an issue, or if there's an issue that's alerted by police or security or anything like that, management immediately gets alerted, maintenance immediately gets alerted. And we also have not only the building management, but regional and corporate level management who are also alerted of all of these things.
You sort of touched on something that made me think about what is, if anything, done for resident governance, I'll call it. I mean, do the residents, does your facilities urge the residents to sort of form a residents committee? So there's a set of officers that sort of.
Some of our properties do have that. We encourage that. The management will often run different activities for the residents, encourage them to have resident councils, counseling them on how to set that up. Some properties do want to do that, some don't. So it's really up
Is that dependent on the temperature of the residence that your management takes after they move in?
Yeah,
Whether they're
Whether they're
inclined to do that or
Exactly.
disinterested?
yes.
Okay.
Can you tell me where they vent out the disposals? Since there's one on each floor?
Like where the exhaust is going out from the compactor and the chutes.
I think it goes up through the roof, so from all 3 levels, it goes to the roof.
I'm not a mechanical engineer, so I need to make that very clear. But yes, they go up through the roof.
Makes sense.
So they're not near anyone's window discharging.
Is there just one chute area? Or is it-
That's correct, at the end of the wing, that there's one chute, and then that's at the.
And that's that back end.
Yes, so it comes, because the pickup area is right here. So it comes out the side, rolls forward, they pick it up and roll it back.
All right. Just as a detail, suppose a resident wants to have their carpet cleaned or some other work done inside to the extent it may be permitted by your rules and regulations. How do they do that and maintain the security at the same time?
Well, any person who would be, we have maintenance, so if it's something like their cabinet is broken, you know,
Right.
they rip the handle off or the door off, we'll do that for them. If they want to, you know, have their carpet cleaned and they want to have service come in and do that, then they will clear that with the front desk and just say, you know, we're going to have these workers be coming into the building on this day to do X service.
All right. And I suppose there's a list of things that the tenant can and can't do inside the apartment?
Yeah, there's a, you know, a lease that we would have that has rules, you know, you can't remodel your bathroom yourself or your kitchen yourself. You can't decide to do major changes and stuff. If you paint, you have to bring it back to regular standards. You can't change the carpeting or things like that. And management will go over all of those things with the tenant when they're signing their lease. And then also, all of this is regulated by the New Jersey Mortgage and Housing Finance Agency also. This is a tax credit development. So we have to meet H&A standards, we have to meet HUD standards. They have to approve all of our leases. We can't have, you know, insanely restrictive clauses or anything like that. And it's multiple levels of compliance. We have to undergo every year. We have to do resident compliance, both in terms of income certification and in terms of inspections of the building by the state to make sure that we're up to standard.
Have you completed the architectural review?
We're complete, so unless there's
Complete.
other questions for her, then we'll go to our planner.
Okay, and does the board have any, board members have any questions of the architect before we let her sit down? No. Okay.
Okay,
Planner's up.
all right, Mr. McDonough. You're sworn. So now I need you to introduce yourself and tell the board and the public about your experience and qualifications, please.
Hi there, everyone. My name is John McDonough. I'm a licensed professional planner here in the state of New Jersey. That license is current and it's in good standing. I'm also certified on a national level as well, AICP. I do this on a nightly basis throughout the state. Not sure if I've actually been here in Hainesport before, but most of your surrounding communities and, as I say, up and down, north, south, east, west, I get to see the full cross-section.
Well, I don't recognize you, Mr. McDonough, but we're glad to have you here.
It's great to be here.
And we'll accept you as an expert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I gave a brief overview of the relief that the applicant is seeking, but perhaps you can refresh everybody in terms of what relief we're seeking and then provide the proofs associated with that.
Sure, and while I'm going through sort of the drier part of the testimony, carrying through the relief that the applicant is seeking, again, we're looking for several D1 variances here that are all sort of subsumed or interrelated into one thing, so we'll look at it as a whole. But I always like to lead off with letting the site speak for itself. All land use planning starts with the land. This is a beautiful piece of land in a beautiful area, and this proposal here is going to integrate and marry up very well with the land that's there and the surrounding land use context. So We'll start with a look at the physical, and then we'll work our way again into the alignment with the zoning ordinance and your master plan.
You have a blow-up of that, or we just work?
This is all I have.
Okay, so give one to our clerk so we can mark it as an
I
exhibit.
think it's going to be A5, and Mr. McDonough, should we call that
We could call it planning exhibits, that's what
planning
I'm
exhibit?
labeled.
Okay, great.
Make sure the experts get them.
Thank you.
These are pretty recent photos, Mr. McDonough.
These are as close to real time as we get. That's why I don't have the big version of it. These were actually taken today, so they are fair and accurate representation of the property as it exists today. And again, you can see that this is a piece of property. It's a single tax lot, block 24, lot number 10. It's a little over 6 acres, and it is developed with the church and the parking lot, and just sort of as a landmark. You've got the basketball court there over to the right in the first page. That's where this L-shaped building is going to start and wrap around. First frame is a view of the front of the church and the left side of the church. Second frame is a view of the front of the church and the right side of the church. And then finally, we're looking at the back of the church in frame number 3. And we close with full circle, just kind of taking you hovering over the site. The surrounding land use context, as you can see, are varied here. You've got religious to the west, you've got warehouses that are starting to manifest and have already manifested, and you've got the railroad as well. Basically, the plan that's before you is a refinement to what you have previously found to be appropriate for this location. It's for a 100% affordable senior housing project. We have the same density that the board found was appropriate before, 70 units. Basically the same number of stories as before as well. You just saw the beautiful building and the beautiful rendering. 3 stories, again, a refinement to that which was previously approved to improve the overall living environment and just a tighter development of the site, a fine-tuning of the site based on the plan that's before you. Same general form of development, the same basic footprint in terms of this L shape, the massing, the positioning of the building, all basically the same. So the reason we're here, we're in your R1 residential zone district where this multifamily use is not permitted. Likewise, the church is not permitted, so we have 2 non-conforming uses that are coming together. That triggers dual use relief as well. And then we have a bucket of C relief or subsidiary relief as well. Council ran through them at the beginning. I'll pop through them again as we bookend the testimony here. But in pretty much all instances, we're taking what was previously approved and making it even better. So moving the needle closer to conformance with your R1 zone criteria. In terms of the D1 use relief, we're dealing here with an application that is an inherently beneficial use. We know our courts have well vetted that the provision of senior housing is of paramount public interest, but most importantly, the provision of affordable housing is of paramount public interest, and that's echoed by your fair share plan, and that's echoed by your master plan, which is the underlying policy statement for your fair share plan, and of course, a court settlement that satisfied the folks at Fair Share in terms of meeting your, or contributing to your affordable housing obligation. Well, whenever we deal with an inherently beneficial use, we move away from that Medici standard for use relief, which is a more complicated or more burdensome standard. Our courts have established a 4-pronged simplified test. In the Cox Handbook, they talk about it as an analytical shortcut, whereby the use is so beneficial that the positive criteria are automatically satisfied. So we don't necessarily have to talk about need, we don't have to talk about suitability per se. Again, all of that has been well vetted by the nature of the use itself. That said, the 4 prongs are pretty straightforward. Prong number 1 is to identify the public interest at stake. Here, again, we're looking at the advancement of Purpose P under the land use law, the provision of senior housing, which has been there from the beginning and carries through. That advances that aspect of the master plan. Again, the affordable housing component, advances your fair share plan and your underlying master plan and a court settlement. And then, of course, fundamental planning goals, purpose A, the promotion of the general welfare, taking what's already been found to be appropriate here, making it better, is going to advance the general welfare. Purpose G, the provision for a variety of uses in appropriate locations according to the needs of all New Jersey citizens, again echoing senior housing and affordable housing all in one package. Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment, filling a void in the property, sort of framing the property, if you will, framing that parking lot with a beautiful building that will well integrate into the site. And then finally, purpose M, our planning goal for efficient use of land. This is a repurposing of developed land that is sitting there, ready, willing, and able to accommodate the development that's before the board. Prong number 2 starts to turn towards the board, which I have observed this evening you have done a good job of doing, which is identifying any potentially detrimental effects, visually or functionally. As I stand here now, through the witnesses before me, I think it has certainly been addressed through the questions of the board that this site will flow, will function, will operate safely, efficiently, and comfortably for the people who will live here. So I believe there are minimal, if any, detrimental effects as we stand here now. The third prong of the test also comes back to the board again to impose reasonable restrictions to the extent needed to mitigate any of those impacts that still remain. Again, I don't think there are substantial impacts here, but again, it's an interactive process. Other than what's already been stated, the board can certainly impose reasonable restrictions as part of an interactive process. And then finally, prong number 4 is to apply the balancing here. You take the very heavy weight on the positive side, balance that out against the very little weight on the negative side with those mitigated impacts or effects, and we see that this squarely lands as a net positive for the community, satisfying the statutory criteria for D1 relief under what we call the seeker standard for inherently beneficial uses. The relief for the dual use, for 2 uses operating on one property, we always look at whether one will interfere with the other. Here, I think there's clear-cut testimony that the introduction of this living environment onto the church grounds will not interfere with the operation of the church and the religious practice and the religious mission, and vice versa, that the church will not conflict with the operation and the living environment of the people who will live here. It's actually a nice cohabitation, if you will, of 2 complementary uses. The last relief that the applicant is seeking moves down from the D level to the C level, and again, just to echo counsel from the outset, C relief for the lot coverage, which is an improvement over what was previously approved. 49.8 was approved, moving it down to 47.1 is going to be site betterment. It is over the 25%, that's the maximum allowed by ordinance, but again, it's an improvement over the previously approved condition. Likewise, the building height was approved at 38.24 feet. The proposal now is 36.67 feet, which is about 1.5 feet over what's allowed by ordinance. This is C relief, not D relief. None of the purposes of height control are going to be violated here by introducing a population that's going to exceed the carrying capacity of the land, blocking scenic views, creating negative shadow effects, or the like. C relief for the parking count, which is similar to what the board found appropriate before, 206, where 285 would be required based on the aggregate of the uses. Again, you have some good, solid evidence here that the 2 will complement each other, and there will be a sort of a sharing of spaces here. And certainly, based on the real-world proof by an established builder of a senior or developer of senior housing and affordable housing, that this will meet the actual demand based on ratios that they see on other developments. The building length is going to exceed 200 feet. I think we max out at 339 feet, but there's good variation in the building to break up the overall mass, not to mention the landscaping, which will also soften the building. And then finally, the last thing is what you talked about earlier, no outdoor dumpster. Again, this is going to be for the beneficiary of the population that will live here. that said, we think it's a good application.
I have one clarification. Mr. Cifelli had testified that if we need to make certain adjustments that are requested by the county, the impervious may go up to 48.5%, which is still lower than the 49.8% previously approved. Just
Duly noted, for the
Thank you.
record.
Sorry to interrupt.
All said, I think based on all the testimony on the record, the statutory criteria for the relief are met here. This is a good application. This is consistent with good planning principles for orderly community growth and development. Again, importantly, the statutory criteria are met here. The applicant's burden is met, and approval is warranted.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. Members of the board have questions directed at Mr. McDonough? Professional? Professional, or professionals, any questions of McDonough that we haven't talked about before?
No, sir.
We're good.
Ms. Coffey, is that your last witness?
Yes, it is, sir.
All right, do you have anything to add before I open it up to public comment?
I don't think so, sir.
Okay, so I will now open it up to public comment. Do we have any people online?
No.
Those two have dropped off, okay. So with the people in the audience, if anyone has any comments, please come, raise your hand, come forward to the microphone. We'll hear them. No one? Can't see behind that billboard, but I don't think there's anybody over there. All right, we'll close public hearing at this point. Last chance for board members for questions. Otherwise, I'm going to ask council to frame a motion for your consideration, affirming the relief or granting the relief sought.
They're seeking a motion to approve an amended preliminary and final major site plan with variances for lot coverage, height, parking count. We've already previously granted some of these variances, but they may have changed a little bit. And of course, it would be in compliance with the engineer's letter and the planner's letter comments and recommendations.
That includes granting the non-conforming use and the C and D relief sought.
It's a use variance because it was not a permitted use. It still is not a permitted use. You previously granted a use variance, but this is a modification of the previous approval, so it still becomes a use variance. So I would recommend that you can do it all in one step if you want to do it that way. A use variance with the bulk variances and conditions.
All right, given the prior approvals, it seems like one step here is appropriate. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Torty?
Oh, no.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mr. Navarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. And may I say your staff has been a pleasure to work with, too.
Very nice
Thank you.
presentation, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, it's nice to get applause once in a while, right?
That's the first.
You guys should lead with that.
You guys did it.
I don't know, that's a question for Paula. I'm not sure.
Need your name.
I just want to bring that
No. Yeah, good representation. Enjoy. Hey, well, God bless you.
Congratulations.
Miss Coffey? Miss Coffey?
Okay, what's up there?
It is, right?
Very nice job. Say hello to my friend Pat McCarthy over there.
Thank you. I know. I'm so excited to have you here. riveting. They all trust you, yes. I had a breakfast party, I had a lunch party. No, my son is home alone, so I gotta. David on Jason, so he's got 9 o'clock. He's got DLI. They back
See you.
I say happy
If I could ask you to take it outside. We have other things to do.
We have a meeting going on here.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. I'll be talking to you.
Oh, I don't.
Where's Leela?
She's right here.
Okay.
Paula. Greer.
All right, we,
Remind you of
can I have some order? We do have a few other things to take care of tonight.
Yeah.
We have minutes from the August 7th, 2024 meeting. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Was I here for that?
Yes. August
Yes.
7th.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Mr. McKay?
Yes. And we have two resolutions. The first being 2024-22. This is a side yard variance for that bedroom addition for the single-family house. Motion to approve is drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. Next resolution, 2024-23. It's a resolution granting amended final subdivision approval, stormwater drainage plan. I have a motion to grant, to accept that resolution as drafted and approve it.
I'll make that motion.
This is, I should say this is for R&M Development LLC. So I have a motion to approve.
Ms. Costco?
From Ms. Costco.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Jacochi?
Yes.
And Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Okay. We have a few pieces of correspondence that are listed under 9. If no one seeks to address any particular one, can I have a motion to receive and file the correspondence?
I make a motion that we receive and file correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Professional comments?
I have one, unless, I don't know if the mayor's going to make a comment. Do you have a comment or anything you want to say under?
I don't know if I could hold myself together, so,
All right.
about,
Well, yeah, just about H, so two things that I wanted to say, just, it's, you know, sad to see H go, it's been great working with
not
him,
gone.
with the board. No, I know, but as a
from the
board member.
board.
He simply retired.
I know, from this board, but I won't get a chance to see him here as part of this board, so that's been great. The only other thing I'd like to say on another note is I'd like to wish Paula Costco a very happy birthday.
Oh,
39.
29 again.
Yes. I get to do it 21 times.
She's 45 times, you know.
2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Big 5-0 today.
That's a
Big
big
one. I
Welcome
know.
to the club.
Young and
Yes, as I barrel roll out of bed every morning. I'm definitely in the club.
all right, and any other professional comments? If not, we'll close that. Board comments? Comments by the board? I'll make a comment. Sorry to see HK off the board. He was a great chair, and wish him well, and hopefully he'll get better, improve the mobility, and we'll see him around town. That's good.
Is he getting better?
Yeah, so we.
Well, I really don't want to comment on his
Okay.
condition, but I guess he's working on rehab.
Good.
So I have a question for the lawyer.
For the lawyer.
For Mr. Kingsbury?
Mr. Kingsbury, you have a question from a board member.
I'm sorry.
Since H's office has resigned or retired, do we have to permanently appoint Tom McKay to be our chairman?
You have to vote on a new chairman, yes. I wouldn't use the word permanent, it would be to the end of the year.
No, it's only to the end of the year. So would you advise to put that as an agenda item maybe on the next board
Yes, you
meeting?
could do that at the next meeting,
Okay.
Paul, you can take
Yep.
care of that?
For chair and vice chair, correct?
yes.
Well, you got to do both, I guess. You got to
Yeah.
move somebody up to each, maybe, maybe not.
I would do both.
All right. Public comments. Need one gentleman in the back. Come on, Joe.
Everybody left the room.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
All right, that's the public comment. Happy birthday, Paul. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Adjournment is
Commence
Done.
with the adjournment.
Hey, Paul, you know why I asked you about
And the Phillies won tonight.
What's up, hunger?
I think so.
Would you like something for your hunger?
I turned the game off.
And that's all we missed.
I gave